Hello, Salon Republic and the Hair Game viewers. My name is Amanda Simpson, and I am super excited to be here today. Again, my name is Amanda Simpson. I am with Schwarzkopf Professional. I'm an educator for the Schwarzkopf Professional Education team. And today we're going to be discussing a lived-in rooted effect with a money piece, and I'm also going to add in some dimension throughout this application. I really wanted to showcase the multifaceted ways to utilize the Schwarzkopf portfolio. So today we're going to be talking specifically about the TBH line. For those of you who have not used the TBH line, it is a new color portfolio within the Schwarzkopf brand. And it's geared towards people who like more lived-in and more natural looks. So a little bit about me is I am a lived-in color specialist based out of San Francisco. If you would like to follow me on Instagram, my Instagram handle is at SF Hair Society. If you guys want to be able to like learn some tips and tricks that I showcase throughout my Instagram page, please feel free to look that up. But because I'm a lived-in color specialist, I'm always striving to find a color line that will give me those results without having to put in as much work behind the chair. And I think now, more than ever, especially after the year that we experienced last year, we're really trying to maximize our time behind the chair. And having a tool like TBH is really, really useful to us because it gives us some multifaceted approaches to color without having to do all of the highlight work that we were having to do before. We can actually utilize the canvases or our clients' hair to our advantage within the TBH line. So throughout this application, I'm going to be talking to you about all the different technology behind TBH and some of the different ways to use it, because it is able to be used in multiple different ways, not just a specific permanent color line. It can be utilized as a glossing service, a toning service, a permanent hair color service, and it also has high lifts. So we're going to be utilizing a lot of those different applications throughout today. But before we get started, for those of you who have never used Schwarzkopf before, I just wanted to touch base really quickly about what our numbering system is, because it might be a little confusing to those of you who have not used it or are using another brand. So the technique we're going to use today is going to just be a technique, and I'm going to explain why I'm using TBH. But if you're using another brand, feel free to apply this technique to another hair color brand. Hi, Amber. It's nice to see you on here. So for those of you who are new to the Schwarzkopf brand or thinking about branching off into utilizing our color line, I just wanted to touch base about our numbering system really quickly. So we have our numbering system. Anything before the dash is going to be our depth or our tonal level. So this is going to be a level 7, and anything after the dash is going to be our tonal color. So that's going to be the color direction. So it's going to be a beige copper. So these are going to stay in the warm family. And when you're utilizing a new line or learning a new line, it's like learning a new language, and it can be kind of confusing. So I wanted to explain how our numbering system went. So like any other brand, we have a -0, which is going to be our natural, and our natural rests right here in between a yellow and a green. So it does have some cooling capabilities, especially in darker levels when you're dealing with some excess warmth or red. So that's a nice tool to know that you have just in our natural series. And then from there, we have 1 through 9. So our -1 is going to be considered our cendre or a blue violet. So that's going to sit right here on the blue violet scale. And then it's going to follow our number system is going to follow the color wheel perfectly. So that's a really useful tool when you're learning a new line, is kind of figuring out which number goes where. So if our -1 rests here, which is our blue violet, our -2 is our blue, which is going to go right here to the right or left, if you guys are looking at the left of this screen. Our -3 is going to be our matte or our green, which is going to rest right around here. And our -4 is going to be a beige, which is a muted gold, so that's going to rest right about here. Our -5 is going to be a true gold, so it's going to rest right around here. Our -6 is going to be a chocolate, so that's going to be a brown with an orange undertone, so you're going to find that right around here. Our -8, our -7 is our true copper, which rests right about here. Our -8 is our true red, and our -9 is our true violet. So as you can see, 1 through 9 literally follows the color wheel. So it's a really easy way to remember how to learn our language or how the numbering system works. And if you want a little cheat sheet, I laminated my color wheel and I put this behind the in my back bar, and I just have my tonal color written down in the number, what we call it in the Schwarzkopf portfolio, and then its tone direction next to it. So if I'm training an assistant or I'm learning something, this is a really great cheat sheet for you. So just so that you guys know, if you have any questions throughout this live, please feel free to type anything in the chat box to the right-hand side of your screen, and I will answer any questions for you. So let's get into our color application. Like I said, we're going to be utilizing the TBH line, which is considered our low ammonia and multi-dimensional permanent hair color line. So what that means is because we use up to 50% less ammonia in our color line, you're actually going to get not quite as much of an opaque finish, but you're going to get a lot of highs and lows and respecting the natural highs and lows of your client's hair, because you're not lifting as much pigment out within this color line. And what that does is, because lived in color is so popular these days, it actually really respects and mirrors the highlight look that you guys are doing with lighteners on the mid links and ends when you're addressing gray coverage or doing a root melt. So for her, I'm going to actually be using all warm colors. As you can tell, I like being a redhead, and I just don't think that as stylists, if we get an opportunity to utilize warm colors all that often, because clients always want ashes. So I thought that this would be a fun opportunity for you to be able to see what warm colors could do within this TBH line. So for our first color, I am going to be using 20 grams of our 7-47W. So the cool thing about the TBH line is they come in these very pretty boxes, and anything that's in a pink box is going to be a warm tonal direction. Anything that comes in this kind of natural or gray kind of color is going to be our naturals, and anything that comes in this kind of lavender or bluish kind of box is going to be our cool tones. So if you're learning the line for the first time and you're not quite comfortable within the number system, and you're a visual person, you're able to know exactly which tonal family each one of these colors lie in based off of the color of the box, as well as at the end of your tonal, of your numbering system. So that, remember, anything before the dash is the depth of the color or what level we're trying to achieve, and anything after the dash is going to be our tonal direction. But each one says C, N, or W. So cool, for C is going to be for cool, N is going to be for naturals, and W's are going to be for warm tones. So these really are visually appealing for you if you're working really fast or you're learning the line. It's a really cool kind of way to learn a color line. So for her, we're going to be going close to a level 7. So I am using a 7-47, 20 grams, and then 10 grams of my 8-84. So these are going to be in the warm family. As you can see, they're in the pink box and they have a W next to them. And I want to address her base color. Since we're working on a mannequin, we did not have any gray hair or white hair to address, but I will give you a formulation for addressing white hair coverage the same way. And then we're just going to, since we're going a little darker than what her base is, we're going to be using 10 volume equal parts. So 30 grams of color, to 30 grams of 10 volume. I am going to be working off of half of the head today because I wanted to show you the finished result. So once we're done doing this application, I'm going to show you what the look that we achieved today is going to, the results are going to be. So we are going to address the roots first. This is, I weighed out my color already, as you can tell. It's just like any other formulation, so equal parts color to developer. I like to use a spatula to mix my color. That way that the brush doesn't get any clumps of color or developer unevenly stuck in the bristles, so that you know that everything is perfectly even when you are applying your color. And it has a really nice creamy consistency. It's not too thick, and it's not runny at all, but it's a really nice creamy consistency. The TBH line is made to respect the natural highs and lows, have kind of a natural powdery finish to your client's hair, as well as having a natural shine. So in order to achieve that, our color line actually has grapeseed oil in the color tubes. So you are going to have grapeseed oil adds shine to the hair, and it's going to give a really natural shine instead of a high intensity gloss finish. So you're going to get, again, very natural results. So for this root application, I am going to start in the top, and that's for a couple reasons. One being that I like to have a little bit more control over how deep my root application is in the front, because we are going to be doing a money piece and adding some dimension throughout the rest of her hair and her look. I really want to be able to have a very shallow root application at the front, and then as I go down, I want to be able to graduate and deepen my root application, and I can have more control if I start at the front and work my way down. As well as, because we're going to be adding some dimension throughout the mid-lengths and ends, if I start in the front, all the hair is moved forward and out of my way, and I have a clean canvas to move up and then from the back up for my mid-lengths and ends application. So we are going to kind of turn this into a diagonal back as we're moving forward, but you don't want to over grab some hair. So just start with a light application. I wouldn't go more than like 3/4 of an inch, depending on their outgrowth, but that's kind of where I would say your application should be for them. And again, like I said, I'm going to try and do this in a graduation and move the hair up and out of the way. Oops. As I'm going back, I'm pivoting based off of her hairline and the center part. I always try and do a center part for my root applications, unless they have a very, very strong part line. I really try and do a center part or 4 quadrants. And I know that this is a little different than how we normally would apply a root application. For most of our root applications, we start in 4 quadrants. We'd start at the back and work our way forward. But I just said, like, I just feel like you get a little bit more control with the rest of the application. So it's about like looking and seeing where you're going to finish, and if starting from a traditional standpoint is easiest, or if you actually need the hair to lay flat somewhere else. So as I'm working through this, I want you guys to type into the chat box any questions that might come up as we're talking through this application, or if you have any questions about the TBH line, because I really want you guys to understand this application, and it can get a little confusing for those of you who are using a new line, and I'm going to be talking about a whole bunch of numbers. So like I said, the TBH line is uses 50% less ammonia. within traditional permanent hair color lines. And the reason that we did that is because we're seeing a trend where clients are really wanting to embrace their natural beauty. And traditional hair color brands or permanent hair color gives a really opaque finish. It has a high amount of alkalinity or ammonia content in there, and you're going to be able to lift their natural base a significant amount in creating a clean and uniformed canvas from whatever natural color that you're applying onto. And this gives a little bit more breathability with your color. It respects your client's natural highs and lows. So if you see, even in our mannequin, you can see that she has like a little bit of a highlight here, and it's like a slight variation here of a little bit darker. It's not uniform, and that's how our hair naturally is. And this color line is going to respect that. So while if you do decide to transfer to this color line and you've been using a full coverage or traditional permanent hair color line, I would suggest transitioning your clients, because you might feel like the results may look a little hollow just because it doesn't give that opaque finish. Now, the way that I describe it best is that it's not every single strand of hair will be permanently affected when you mix 1 part color to 1 part oil developer, but it will respect the natural highs and lows of the hair. So if you have someone who has a natural highlight or a gray hair that you're trying to address, those gray hairs might be a little bit more, a little bit lighter in the tonal direction that you're wanting than the pepper version of their hair. If that makes sense, give me a little thumbs up emoji in the chat box. And I know that sometimes watching someone do a root application is kind of like watching paint dry, but I'll try and get through this rather quickly. So as I'm going through the back of her head, I am graduating the depth of my root application, if you guys can see that. So whereas I had 3/4 of an inch in the front, I have now 1 1/4 inches throughout this back. So I'm going to keep that trend as I'm moving down. And the reason being is because you're always going to see more depth at the root as the hair grows back. You're just trying to mirror the natural, like a natural look. So like I said, I am a lived-in color specialist. So I always am trying to respect and replicate natural hair color or natural looks that you might see that the sun has created, or that you have created because you spent too much time in the salt pools. Which is why I really loved the TBH line when it came out. Quite often, we find that the high intensity color of the traditional color lines is too shiny, and it's too, like, it might give like kind of an artificial pigmented look to someone's hair because of the opaqueness. And with the TBH, you're not going to get that. So like I had said earlier, we claim to achieve powdery nuances with the hair. So think about what your hair looked like as a child, or if you have any clients that are children, or clients who just don't color their hair. Their hair has more of kind of a natural powder finish, or kind of like, I don't want to say matte, but almost like a matte finish to their hair. It doesn't have those super intense gold reflections in the hair. So the TBH line, the entire line, is formulated with our cendre as a base tonal direction. So there is always going to be a blue violet in the foundation of the color, which is going to give that kind of powdery finish. And the nice thing about it also is that it's going to help control warmth as our clients go out into the world, wash their hair, have sun exposure, all of that fun stuff. You're going to have a lot more control instead of their hair coming back warm and brassy. Also, because we use up to 50% less ammonia, you have an overexposed underlining warmth in your client's hair within the by utilizing the TBH line. So you're already going to have a little bit more control over this color as your clients live their day-to-day lives. We also can utilize the TBH line as a demi-permanent and as a tone softener. And I'm going to show you how to use the tone softening service in a little bit. But because there is 50% less ammonia in the color line, you can actually manipulate this color to be able to do multiple different types of applications. Whereas if you had a traditional permanent hair color line, the high ammonia content will not be able to be dropped down enough to be able to act like a demi-permanent or a toning service. So we've finished the front of the hair for the root application, and we're just going to follow that through in the back. So as you can tell, because I'm working through from the top down and pushing everything forward, I'm going to have a really nice clean canvas to work with to be able to apply the mid lengths and ends. It's a very creamy consistency, which I absolutely love. And like I had said, we have grapeseed oil in the color line to add natural shine and softness. We use the Agora Royal Premium Oil Developers for this. So if you are using any other color lines within the Schwarzkopf portfolio, like the Agora Royal color line, you already have the developers. When we created this line, we really wanted to be able to enhance the experience behind the chair instead of making it more difficult by having a complete locking key system or having to buy a whole bunch of new additive products. So it really adds great value to the rest of your portfolio that you are able to provide. However, like you, I am also a studio suite-based stylist, and for me, space is a concern. So like that, obviously, as a lived-in color specialist, I need to be able to provide a multitude of different colors to my clients, but I also need to be able to have the space to house all of the color that I need behind the chair. And what I absolutely love about the TBH line is it's very small, but it's very mighty. So we have, I believe it's 32 shades within the Schwarzkopf portfolio. We just expanded and added a few new warm shades. But those shades, because I can use them as a permanent hair color line, I can use that. I have high lifts in that portfolio, and I can use it as a tone softener and as a toning service for pastel toning service. I really can maximize what I can do behind the chair with this very boutique line, which is very useful to me behind the chair. And like I said, being a lived-in color specialist, it really mirrors and respects what I do behind the chair on a regular basis. If any of you have tried the TBH line and have some experiences with it, please let me know. I would love to hear how you feel about it. The one thing about TBH is because it is a new technology, it can be a little confusing. And because it can be mixed in 3 different ways, that can be a little confusing. So I like to give as much information as possible when I am using the TBH line, or if I'm teaching a class on the TBH line, because it can be a little confusing. Another wonderful attribute about the TBH line is that we have actually formulated a new color molecule for our TBH line. It's called HEP. So if anyone has experienced a client who has had color reactions where they have color sensitivity and their skin swells or they get hives, or God, let's heaven forbid, a anaphylactic shock syndrome, it's normally based on the PPDs and PTD color molecules, but the HEP color molecule is shaped slightly larger and shaped like a hexagon. So when your body receives any kind of topical treatment, it receives anything, pollens, any lotions, anything that your body comes in contact with, it has T cell receptors that live on the outside edge of your skin, and it's kind of like processing anything that comes near you. And if your skin doesn't like it, then it sends a reaction to your brain, and then that's why you have an allergic reaction. And PPDs and PTDs are tiny little round balls that fit right into the T cell receptors. However, HEP is shaped slightly larger and shaped like a hexagon, so it can't actually fit into those T cell receptors. So your client is less likely to have an allergic reaction to the TBH line. But I would highly recommend still doing a strand test or test a spot on the inside of your client's arm just to make sure if they have proven to have an allergic reaction. So for the next application, we're going to be using a color blocking triangle technique. So in the back, what I would do is I would create this triangle in the back of the head. I typically do 4 quadrants where in my mind I would do like part it down the center, and we are going to part it down over the ear eventually. But since we're starting from the back up, I'm just going to show you how I will do the application working this way. So I'm going to create a triangle based off of the center part, and then we're going to pivot and do multiple different triangles as we move up this part. And we're going to start with the darkest color, lightest color, darkest color, lightest color. So we're going to take our root color and blend that into 2 varying colors. So we're going to get a lot of dimension. So for this dark color, I am going to utilize the tone softening service. So basically, I'm just going to enhance the natural color. So this is what we would use if we're doing a refresh service on our client. And it is going to use our the same formula that we just used, which is going to be 7-47, two parts 7-47 to 1 part 8-84. And we are going to use our Agora Vibrance 6-volume lotion. So it's going to be the cream-based developer, and mix that in 1 part to 1 part our TBH tone softener. So this is where it gets a little confusing for some people because the tone softener is kind of a new concept. For those of you who might have been in the industry like me for a very long time, we used to have some hairstylists used to use the conditioner at the back bar and mix it into oxidized color and use that as a refresh service. It's a very, very old school mentality of being able to do a color refresh. But the problem with that is because conditioners tend to have fillers in them and they're not on the same molecular level as color. And if you're using oxidized color, it will not melt properly into the hair, and they kind of coagulate and they just kind of sit on the surface and create kind of a muddy or blotchy effect. Now, the TBH tone softening service is on the same molecular level as the color in the tube without having any added alkalinity to it. So it's going to drop the ammonia content of the TBH color, and we're going to drop the ammonia content even more with our 6-volume activator lotion. So instead of using a 10, 20, or 30 volume developer, we're actually going to use a 6-volume or 1.9% activator lotion and our TBH tone softening service to drop that ammonia content down and stay on the same molecular level that a hair color needs. And then if it also has care ingredients to help with your conditioning of the hair. So it does act as a conditioner while still staying on par with your color service. That makes sense to everyone? Please let me know. Type that into the chat box because I think that is where a lot of confusion happens with the TBH line. Okay. So for this first service, as you can tell, it still has that really nice creamy consistency. It's a little bit thinner because we did add 2 parts of a lessening, like ammonia content base. So we have the cream color, and then we have 2 liquid formulations that we're adding into our mixture to be able to create a little bit creamier of a consistency. So this is going to act like a demi-permanent. Okay, so I have my triangle section in the back. So the best way that I would say is start at the corner of the hair and go up just below the occipital bone. And you're going to create that triangle. If I was working on this on the back of the head, this would be a full triangle, but I've already done this side of the head. So this is just going to be a half triangle that we're going to use. And I'm gonna just apply and saturate and blend in from our root melts. So I like to use a double-sided brush for this kind of application because it helps do a faster application that I can also comb through and make sure that the saturation is perfect. And then I go into the blend area last. So I'm going to add in our color, and I'm going to use my fingers to be able to create a nice seamless blend. And then comb through. And then I am going to use cellophane foils. I love cellophane foils. They're a little bit more cumbersome than traditional foils just because they don't have as much fold or flexibility as a traditional foil. But I really like them for classes because you can see what I'm doing as you're moving up. And if you are behind the chair, they're really great if you're using varying different colors and you need to see how something's oxidizing next to it. I would totally use these cellophane foils. And then we're going to take the last section in our back triangle piece, and we're going to saturate all the way through, comb, and then blend. You always want to make sure that you're blending that area so that you don't get any harsh lines of demarcation. I like to have a towel handy so that I can wipe my hands off, because for our next color, like I had said in our on our head sheet, for this next triangle, we're actually going to use a lighter color. So I wrote my formulation down here at the bottom. If you can see it, it's my base is 20 grams 7-47 and 10 grams 8-84. And the warm line with 10 volume. And then for our refresh color, it's 10 grams 7-47 and 5 grams 8-84 with 15 grams of our 6 volume activator lotion and 15 grams of our tone softener. But our next color is going to be our high lift series, and it's going to be 25 grams of 10-56W with 40 volume. So anytime that you see a 10, that means it's going to be our high lift series. So it's not necessarily a level, but it's going to give you the maximum amount of lift. But remember, because the TBH line has 50% less ammonia in the entire line, you're not going to get quite as much lift as you would with the traditional color line. So you are going to get up to 2 levels of lift with 30 volume and up to 3 levels of lift with the use of 40 volume. So I'm using 40 volume on our mannequin today, and it's mixed 1-to-1. So I used 25 grams of 10-56 and 25 grams of 40 volume, and it has the same exact consistency of the rest of the color line. So for this, I am going to start at the back of the ear and meet that point and create my next triangle. And I'm going to turn this entire thing into a high lift and blend it into my root color. And this is going to add some natural dimension in the hair, but because the TBH color line is so gentle and respects the natural highs and lows, it's going to marry next to this tone softened color really, really well. So this is a great service to do if you don't have time to do a full balayage, but your client wants to add a little bit more dimension back into their hair. I think that this is a great way, instead of doing a just root color and refresh service, you can add a little extra dimension. But if your client already has some balayage throughout her ends and she just wants to refresh, what I would do is I would do the root color the same, and then I would do a lighter version of the tone softener color that we did. So like 20 grams 9-47 and 10 grams 8-84. And then I would do 2 parts 6 volume activator lotion. So anytime you have a level 8 or 9, you are going to want to use our Agora Vibrance 6 volume activator lotion in 2 parts, because that's going to create a pastel toning service. So anytime you have a level 7 and darker, you're going to use our mixing ratio for our tone softener. Anytime you have a levels 8 or 9, you're going to mix in our Agora Vibrance Activator Lotion. All right, so I'm going to apply like I did before. Make sure that the ends are fully saturated. And we're going to comb through, and then I'm going to go right back up and create that blend line. And don't worry about mixing the two together. Like I said, the 10 series is very gentle, so it's going to create a very seamless blend. And that's what we are trying to achieve today. And as we move up, I'm going to continue to apply separating foils. And then you're going to create another triangle. And this is going to be our dark color one more time. So you're just alternating back and forth. And this is going to be our tone softening service. So if you had a client like me who needed to also address gray coverage with the TBH line, instead of just using your fashion shades, which are going to be anything that has a C or a W next to it, you are going to need to be able to incorporate a natural line within the TBH portfolio to achieve gray coverage. So for my formulation, I actually use a very similar formulation to what we're using on our mannequin today. So my formulation is 20 parts 7-47 and 10 parts 6-84. So I went with the darker version, and then 15 grams of our 7-06. So our natural series either is a -06 or -04. And the reason being is because we do have that cendre undertone within the whole line. So we needed to add a little bit of extra warmth in our natural series to create a perfect blend and perfect coverage. So it just needs to be a mixing ratio of 1 part of your natural to 2 parts of your targeted fashion shade to be able to achieve gray coverage with 20 volume. How are we feeling about all of this? If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. All right, and as we are moving up on the head, I'm going to pivot her a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, And then I'm going to create another triangle, which is going to be basically where the end of the quadrant would be, the front and back quadrant. I'm going to go straight up from over the ear. And tighten my mannequin a little bit. And then I'm just going to apply. So you can see how quickly that this application can be applied to a client. It's just one extra step when you are applying a full coverage. So if you have a client who had like last minute, like, oh my gosh, I need my hair done for some big event and I didn't book out enough time. She only booked out a full color appointment. You now have something, a tool in your toolbox to be able to provide her without adding a whole bunch of extra time to your appointment book. The development time for TBH is for permanent mixing ratio is going to be 30 to 45 minutes, just like anything else. For my high lift, I do like to leave it on for the full 45 minutes just to make sure that we get as much lift as possible. Because it is using less ammonia. So I just want to give it every opportunity that possible to be able to achieve as much of a lift as I can. And then for the toning service, if you were just doing the TBH toning service, it is 10 minutes behind. You can apply it on damp hair or dry hair. Apply, comb through, and let sit for up to 10 minutes. And for the pastel toning service, which is 2 parts 6 volume activator lotion, that is up to 15 minutes on damp hair. Alrighty. So we have applied all the way through the back quadrants of the hair, and make sure that we comb properly and wipe our hands off. Now I am making sure that for this next step, because we did want to achieve a bold money piece in the front, I want to make sure that the target that we have, the triangle that we have in front of the money piece is going to be our darker color. The reason being is because dark allows light to shine more or pop more. So by putting the darkest color next to the money piece, you're going to get your maximum amount of brightness throughout. But because we have applied our root melt application, you're not going to get any bold color blocking effect throughout the entire head. It's going to look really natural and really blended with the other colors. My suggestion when doing color blocking like this, if you're more of a natural girl like me, is to stay within 2 tonal shades of one another when you're doing a color blocking technique. If you like a really big, bold application, go for it. More power to you. I just personally like to have as much blend as possible. So in order to do that, I keep within 2 tonal families, 2 tonal levels of what I am trying to achieve. So this is going to be our last triangle up over the ear in the front quadrant. And like I said, I typically like to use a double-sided comb, but if you do not have those, feel free to use a wide tooth comb or even a coloring wide tooth comb to be able to brush through. Alrighty. And you can see how clean this application is. I've started at the top, moved everything forward, and then reversed and worked from the bottom and moved everything back. So everything lays really nice and cleanly, and your client had a really comfortable color experience behind the chair. So we're getting close to wrapping up. I hope you guys are all really excited to be able to see this final result. And if you have any questions about this application, now would be the time to ask so that I can see them in the chat box and be able to answer them before we log off. Make sure that you're blending with your fingers. And I like to wipe my hands off before starting because we don't want that high lift color to be dulled out with our darker tonal refresh. For this, I'm just going to do the same thing. I do about 1 inch to 1.25 inches on the front diagonal back section that we're doing for the money piece. It's entirely up to you. If your client wants more of a low impact color, then you can do 1/2 inch. It's entirely up to your client and the person that you are applying this on, and it's completely customizable. But you already have that root color blended in, and then we are going to apply our high lift right at the front. And this is great for clients who kind of like that lived in color, but are really afraid to take the plunge into the world of lightener. So this is a really, really gentle approach to be able to give them that option. Make sure that you go right up to that blend line and then use your fingers to blend. Typically, once I do that, I like to blend with my front 2 fingers and then brush through with my back fingers or my comb. That way I don't muddy up the end color. And then we are tantalizingly close. All right. Make sure that you're saturating fully. And as you can tell, like, it's a really, really creamy consistency that you are going to be able to achieve with our color line. I personally really like the consistency that I get out of the TBH tone softener because we have the tone softener acts like a conditioner, like I said, which has shea butter for softness. It has argan oil for shine, and it has macadamia nut for shine and softness. So it's a really, really, really enriching and conditioning color line. And then if you add it as a demi-permanent, it becomes even more conditioning. You want to make sure that your blend lines are saturated. I made this go a little bit thicker than I thought. All right. And then let's cover this side up. And if you want to see our end result, let's see some fun emojis in the chat box. Alrighty. And this is going to be our final result. So we have that really beautiful blended money piece in the front. And what I really love about this look is you can see the soft graduation where we have that like low impact right at the front, but we have a slightly deeper impact, but it's super well blended. Like you don't see any harsh lines in the hair as you move forward, but you get all of that brightness and all of that pop right in the front. And then you get your dimension sitting next to it, but because of the triangle technique, you can see this, because of that triangle technique, you get all of the brightness and all the lightness at the ends. But by staying within the range of a couple levels of where we did that tone softening service next to the high lift, you're not getting too jarring of a result for, or contrasting result for the color blocking technique that we actually used. And then throughout the back, you see some highs and some lows. And I think that it just really blends beautifully. This application can be used with any tonal family. I just really wanted to be able to enhance and use our warm tones because I think that they get shied away from because our clients are always afraid of warmth. But I really wanted to show you also this. If you, just hold on a second. If you can see highs and lows in the darker color that we used. So that's what we mean about TBH, is it permanently affects every single color. So this color is going to give you a permanent result, but you're not going to get an opaque finish with this. And I think that that's something that our clients are really striving for and really craving nowadays behind the in their day-to-day life, in their hair, you know, like with Instagram being a huge thing, and we're seeing everyone's life from like kind of a camera lens. People are being a lot more authentic than they ever were before. So embracing what our natural beauty is kind of what the TBH line was, and that's what we're seeing in trends. And then you can see just like that beautiful, beautiful blend from the permanent base color to the TBH tone softener, as well as the base color to the high lift series in the front. Now, if you wanted less contrast, you can always make smaller triangles. This is just a quick application, but feel free to customize it to your own specific needs and wishes and your client's desires. But I just really thought that this was a beautiful way to showcase all of the different ways that we can use TBH behind the chair. Well, I hope that everyone enjoyed this color application. If you have any questions after this seminar and you want to reach out to me directly, feel free to do so at SF Hair Society on Instagram. Otherwise, I hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I really appreciate you joining me on this Monday morning. Happy Monday!